Across the world, debates are raging about access to safe abortion. But without such access, desperate women resort to dangerous backstreet options. Complications from unsafe abortions are a leading cause of maternal death globally. In my home country of Kenya, where almost 2/3 of pregnancies are unintended, around 7 women a day die from unsafe abortion. Our 2010 constitution allows safe abortion in certain cases, but our much older penal code does not reflect this. And most Kenyans believe that abortion is illegal. This misconception and fear of social and religious condemnation mean that women are left with few choices.
They tell you there are bad things which happen when you terminate the baby.
Some give birth only to struggle with another mouth to feed. Others try to end their pregnancies in dangerous ways. I'm Linda Ngari, a journalist based in Nairobi. With over 2,000 of my fellow Kenyans dying from unsafe abortion every year, I want to find out who is responsible for this public health crisis and what can be done to save these wasted lives. Growing up in Kenya, I remember hearing stories when I was in high school of classmates, schoolmates, found to have collapsed in washrooms because they were taking jik or tea leaves, trying to hide and terminate a pregnancy. And I remember just being terrified of ending up as one of those girls that were collapsing in the toilet. What if they died? At school, we were taught to abstain from sex. Many organizations still preach that message to young people today. Youth for Christ Kenya is one of them.
Oh, we are all over the world. Actually, our headquarters for Youth for Christ is in America.
Monica Katale coordinates their crisis pregnancy ministry in Kenya. Thousands of so-called crisis pregnancy centers operate across the United States, where they are known for their anti-abortion agendas. More and more similar centers are appearing across East Africa. Monica is taking me to a new one opened by her ministry.
We are a Christian-based organization. We're trying to promote a life of sexual purity amongst the teenagers.
But with around 15% of Kenyan teenagers falling pregnant by the age of 19, that message is clearly not getting through. Monica and her ministry offer support to pregnant teens, but with strings attached.
The main objective for us is to keep them, to save the mother and to save the child. So we are totally against abortion. We do not support abortion in any form or in any way. We offer another option of you can have the baby and give it up for adoption.
At least 1 in 3 women in Kenya has experienced sexual assault. Anyone made pregnant through incest, rape, or defilement should qualify for legal termination if they want one. Kenyan law defines defilement as the offense of penetrating anyone under 18. Monica says her team often deals with such cases, but that they never condone abortion.
If you have a girl who's come to a center and she's in crisis pregnancy, we give them all the facts about abortion, adoption, and they still make that decision that they want to abort. We will not be part of that abortion in any way or form.
I want to know what Monica tells the girls about abortion, but before I can ask, we divert to a local clinic.
Tuko karibu kufika. One of our girls actually gave birth last night. It was at clinic 2 a.m.
We're not showing Lucy's face to protect her. And like others in this film, we've changed her name. She only discovered she was pregnant at 5 months and ended up at Youth for Christ Center a few weeks later. Uko na miaka ngapi? 17.
Yeah, so now after giving birth, we stay with her for some time, teach her some skills. If she needs to go through counseling, she'll go through sessions of counseling. And then we try and reintegrate her back to the society, back to the family.
In the US, so-called crisis pregnancy centers, or CPCs, offer support to young mothers while trying to persuade them to keep their pregnancies. CPCs in Kenya follow a similar model, offering temporary housing, food, and some health services. Monica says that the girls at the center make up their own minds about their pregnancies.
Take baby home.
Their home for now is this CPC, where Lucy has been staying with around 15 other teenagers, either with newborns or waiting to give birth.
Most of us usually assume that most of these girls, they've gotten pregnant because they lack morals. But some of them, it's been a way of surviving. These men outside, they are taking advantage of these girls. Some of these girls are also actually getting pregnant because they lack basic needs. They can't afford even sanitary towels. So people are taking advantage of that. Like, oh, me, I can provide you a sanitary towel, but you pay in kind.
Monica says that after counseling, girls who had considered abortion usually changed their minds.
A lot of education needs to go around, I think, give these girls more information about that process of abortion, not just tell them it's a quick fix, because it's not. You go to a quack doctor because it's illegal, because the methods they're using, it's quite scary.
In Kenya, we girls grow up hearing frightening stories about abortion. But the World Health Organization describes it as a common health intervention when it's done safely. It's the unsafe procedures that are the problem, causing death and injury worldwide. And although many women and all girls under 18 should qualify under Kenyan law for safe abortion services, they struggle to access them. Across town, these activists are demonstrating for access to safe abortion.
Sisi tumetoka kuona wanawake na wasichana wakibakwa, wanapata mimba, wanatoa, wanakufa, na kuna sheria ambazo ziko zinafaa protect.
One of the protest leaders is human rights campaigner Emily Kwamboka.
Personally, I'm a mother of two. My son is the one who made me what I am today. When I got pregnant for him, his father refused the pregnancy when he was 3 months old. And he gave me money to abort, so I had the choices, either to keep the baby or to abort. It's emotional. So I decided to keep it.
Not long ago, Emily had to terminate a pregnancy using unsafe methods while in an abusive relationship.
I've been through a lot of challenges. Sometimes the issues are so overwhelming. There's police brutality, there's unsafe abortion, there's gender-based violence, there's a lot of issues, a lot.
Emily invited me to a meeting that she's hosting with fellow activist Victoria Atieno. Neighborhood women have come to discuss issues that affect their lives.
Whether we talk about abortion or not, it will still happen. Because if a woman has decided that I don't want a baby, whether you do what or what, she will have an abortion.
Other pregnancies, they normally come unplanned. You have another small kid, here's another baby, you're in an abusive marriage. So now you wonder, even the husband is not even responsible. Like right now, men are not responsible at all right now in Kenya.
Hapa Mathare, abortions zinafanyika. Na zinafanyika in unsafe ways. On a weekly basis, ama on a monthly basis, unapata, tumepoteza at least 2 women because of unsafe abortion.
We should not wait for the government to bring that solution, because as long as we wait, many of us will die in the process. You can't expect a ghetto person to access 15,000 or like 30,000 to secure an abortion.
Okay, personally, I feel like abortion is a class issue. Because sasa kama mimi mwanamke wa Mathare, siwezi manage kuprokiwa safe abortion. But a rich woman walk in an hospital vizuri kabisa because she's having enough money and atoi ball kwa njia inafaa. Unajua? Then itafunikwa with the article of the constitution.
Kenya's 2010 constitution and case law permit abortion in certain cases, including in instances of sexual violence and if the life of the mother is in danger.
Our constitution allows abortion only when the well-being of the mother is in question. And the well-being is not just physical and biological, it's emotional and economical. I think it's about time that we understand the emotional burden of not having access to family planning, not empowering the woman so that she knows that she doesn't have to become a baby producing machine. She needs to have a child because she's ready, mentally, emotionally, financially.
But while our constitution allows it in some cases, there is room for interpretation, and Kenya's penal code still criminalizes abortion.
Our current penal code has 3 provisions regarding abortion. There are 3 crimes. There is a crime by the mother, there is a crime by the person who does the abortion, and then the one who supplies the instruments that are used to do abortion.
Charles Kanjama chairs the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum and helped to organize this anti-abortion march in Nairobi.
So we come today to commemorate the sacredness of all human life from the moment of conception in the womb for 9 months.
Kanjama's forum is an influential anti-abortion pressure group. They work closely with other religious organizations in Kenya and have strong links to the global anti-abortion movement. They also routinely go to court to try and restrict access to safe abortion.
There's a contradiction between the penal code, which has been in effect since the colonial era, and Kenya's current modern constitution.
Yes.
So which one do you think should take precedence?
For us, we don't think there's any contradiction. We think they are aligned. I do not support an amendment of our laws to remove the crime of abortion.
Others are pushing to close the gaps in the law.
During the pandemic, we saw so many pregnancies. These are young kids. They didn't get pregnant because they wanted to. They didn't get pregnant because they planned to. They should not be penalized. The rich have an opportunity to take their children into 5-star hospitals and procure a safe abortion silently, without anyone knowing or speaking. But the poor have to struggle.
In 2012, the Kenyan government published guidelines for health workers indicating when they are allowed to provide abortion services. But the guidelines were suddenly withdrawn the following year, and Kanjama's group wants it to stay that way.
You say you are basically advocating that there shouldn't be the training where medical doctors are taught how to provide safe abortion services, is that right?
As our position is that whether abortion is safe or unsafe, first of all, the child always dies. So it is always unsafe for the child. And number 2, you cannot train people to do something that is illegal in the country.
But critics tell me that it is simply not true to say that abortion is illegal in all circumstances. The Kenyan courts also ruled against Kanjama's reading of the law. The case has now gone to appeal. In the meantime, doctors say that all the legal confusion has led to a climate of fear.
We do have a lack of clarity and fear when it comes to providing the services to begin with because of, again, the confusion in the law.
It's a very slippery slope. Depending on how the judge interprets the legality of the procedure that someone has done, it can go either way. That makes it very dangerous for health workers.
It also makes it nearly impossible for government facilities to legally provide safe abortion services. Dr. John Nyamu is one of Kenya's only doctors willing to talk openly about providing legal abortion services.
Unsafe abortion is rampant in Kenya because the law does not allow women, poor women, to access the services in the public sector. That is the main cause of the unsafe abortion.
Dr. Nyamu does offer safe and legal abortions to women and says he makes special provision for those on lower incomes.
Somebody who comes here and they are not ready to have a baby and their indication falls within the law, then we will be able to assist them, but we don't charge them what we charge the other people.
But he says he has been targeted for providing these services. In 2004, he was arrested and charged with murdering 2 fetuses. He spent a year in prison on remand before being found not guilty. His arrest and imprisonment shocked the medical community. He thinks it was politically motivated.
This was a setup by probably the anti-choice. I cannot be 100% sure because I did not see any other explanation.
Even Dr. Nyamu's clinic is out of reach for many. Most women can only afford backstreet clinics, Some try to abort on their own.
The ones who come with the post-abortion complications, most of them are young people. So the women actually start themselves, or they do it with an assistance of an untrained person.
Those who provide backstreet abortion services run the risk of arrest and imprisonment every day. I visited a clinic on the outskirts of Nairobi. The man who runs it tells me he is a clinical officer, but I can't find him on the official registry. He feels he provides a vital service.
We have the girls who are still going to school. You get others who are raped. You get someone who is not ready and they want to terminate it. We do help because they come for help. They need that help from us. Yes. So, second to that, we need money. Yes.
He charges a minimum of 2,500 shillings, which is around $18, to terminate a pregnancy.
How many abortions do you think you've done?
I can't tell. I can't tell.
There's people who oppose what you do and they call you murderers. How do you react to that?
It's part of our job, and we do accept that sometimes, and we do feel very bad because death is there.
On top of the abortion fee, he charges patients for the safe disposal of their aborted fetuses.
Na kama hawezi afford kulipia hiyo, mnafanya nini na huyo mtoto ambaye ametolewa, na ni nani anagharamia?
Sasa hiyo itakuwa gharama yangu. Geli nilipe mtu aende tupikwa maji. Kwa mtu ile ende. Yes.
How often?
Mostly it's like I can say 70%.
Are thrown in the river?
Yes.
Emily and Vicky told me that they find fetuses near the river that runs through their area and that they give them a proper burial if they can.
So we are going in one of the places where we normally collect fetus from, and it's just down there where there's garbage which is being poured there. It's normally where we normally collect the fetus. Then it's normally we normally collect fetuses here.
You're talking about the same place that's next to a playground full of kids.
So most of the time, it's the children who gets the fetus and then brings the information to the community.
Wow.
So our children are exposed to so much trauma.
Yeah.
If you look carefully, you must find something from the clinics. If it is not a syringe, then there are some medicines. If it is not medicines, there are some gloves, pads, you can find them here. As much as people don't want to talk about abortion, it is killing our young women and even married women.
So a lot of women die.
Yes, not
while
only young
abortions.
women, but also married women are dying.
Yeah.
But because they are in marriages and people want to secure their marriages, they don't want to talk about it. But it is really happening.
Access to abortion is so rarely discussed here in Kenya that few of us appreciate its impact on women in communities like this. Dr. Ernest Nyamato has researched the issue.
When you restrict abortion, you don't limit the number of abortions. When you restrict abortions, what you do is you increase the number of unsafe abortions. Because now women will resort to backstreet abortions. So if you go to a country like the US, where restrictions were much less, the rate of abortion actually in the US has been pretty fixed, but the safe abortions are over 90%. Whereas in our context, close to 80-85% of our abortions are unsafe.
With the vast majority of abortions in Kenya happening unsafely, doctors often have to pick up the pieces.
Because a lot of those unsafe abortions are carried out in ways that are not sound medically, you end up with complications that you wouldn't see from a safe procedure. People assume various types of medications can help to terminate a pregnancy. So you find people using all sorts of medications that cause damage to their own bodies. There's also like wrong equipment and wrong technique can lead to a lot of injuries, especially so internally for the woman. So those are the things that we would consider an unsafe practice.
Women here are also buying over-the-counter medication to induce an abortion. These pills are easy to access in some countries, but here in Kenya, they can only be sold with a prescription from a medical professional. Nevertheless, I heard multiple accounts of women self-administering the pills. And the cost of the medication, at around 3,000 shillings or $22, is still too high for many. It's against this backdrop that some Kenyans turn to God when facing challenges in life.
This one is the most poorest place, and instead of having a lot of schools, we're having a lot of churches.
Why?
Because I think because of poverty, people live here around. It's all about being given hope every day to make us, just to give us a reason why I should wake up until tomorrow.
I went to my own church to ask one of the female pastors what they tell young worshippers.
Do you get a lot of women asking for advice on what to do?
Definitely, I do. I strongly believe that obviously sex outside marriage is not acceptable. So my stand is I encourage women that when you get yourself in that situation, God is able to handle it. God knows why He had to put you in that situation.
Religious leaders often take this moral position, but few offer practical solutions. Vicky took me to meet one who says he does. This traditional healer provides faith-based healthcare, but apparently with no medical oversight.
Iko wengi. Inakujanga wengi lakini inakataza.
He says he often looks after pregnant women, including those who have tried to abort.
Nimeshapata mwingine nakuja hapa kama ameshaweka hiyo dawa mali pengine. Analemea na anaogopa kuenda hospitali. Na hiyo inasaidia iko. Maana anaogopa kuenda hospitali, saa nyingine atasemekana hii kitu ulitoa wapi. Sasa wanajifichana. Inafaa usuie usae. Sio kutoa, unajua kutoa ni kama ni kuua.
For many Kenyan women, prayer and traditional medicine just aren't enough, and religious conservatives know this. So some have adopted the American crisis pregnancy model, helping pregnant women with their most pressing needs while counseling against abortion. Back at Youth for Christ Kenya's CPC, 17-year-old Lucy is getting to grips with her first day of motherhood.
So try your best not to bend like that.
When you learned you were pregnant, you stopped going to school. Why?
Because she's underage, Lucy could have qualified for illegal abortion, and the adult father of her child could have been charged with the offense of defilement.
What about your boyfriend? You're in a relationship.
Also at the center, 17-year-old Grace is waiting to give birth. Grace could also have qualified for a legal abortion. Her 26-year-old boyfriend told her to terminate the pregnancy and then left her.
It is not right, even in the Bible, this is written, should not get rid of that kid.
That's what you're taught in church,
Yes.
that is in the Bible. Okay. Do you think that if you knew that there's a safe way you could have terminated the pregnancy and gone on with school, you'd have made a different decision to not have your baby?
Could still keep the baby because that's a blessing from God, and you can still go back to school after you have given birth.
Is that what you are taught here at the center?
Yes, they tell you there are bad things which happen when you terminate the baby.
What kind of bad things do they tell you happen?
When you terminate, you may not get pregnant again because your womb will be used to terminating pregnancies.
But this claim is not true. The scientific evidence shows that if an abortion is performed safely, then there is no impact on a woman's future fertility.
I never had thought I was going to get pregnant. And it wasn't like I did it like every day. It was only twice.
Did you think that if you don't do it a lot of times, you're not likely to get pregnant?
Yes.
And how do you feel about your decision right now?
My mother doesn't even have money to take care of me. I just know God is going to help me.
It seems to me that we really don't have a culture of sex education in Kenya, and that has significant consequences for young people. I asked Dr. Kinuthia why there is so much misinformation around sex.
Because we demonize comprehensive sexuality education so much, we end up with situations where most people don't have access to information. Without it, we find then you have a lot of shame and stigma when it comes to your body and access to information about sex.
I also asked about the teenagers I'd met who found out they were pregnant many months after conceiving.
Why do you think that's the case?
Again, comprehensive sexuality education. You don't even understand how your body works for you to be able to understand that I've missed my period, then I should be thinking about pregnancy.
Every time we have talked about sexuality education in Kenya and the need to have sexuality education, there has always been a backlash. I meet university students. These are people who are learned, but they come saying, I didn't know that I can conceive when I have sex while standing. These are people who are in the university. So what about our children in primary schools and secondary schools?
Many organizations that oppose sex education also campaign against contraception and abortion.
This is American politics playing on the global stage. So of course, decisions like Roe versus Wade just amplify both funding, both the message, and just emboldens the opposition in Kenya.
The anti-abortion movement is very strong, strongly led from the US through the Republican and evangelical leaders, and it spills to any country that collaborates with the US. Of course, even pro-choice people learn a lot from the US. There is a lot of noise. Now the difference is that noise does not translate to a woman's experience.
Youth for Christ CPC isn't the only CPC in Nairobi. Looking online, I found more than 15 CPCs across Kenya. At least 3 have opened or expanded over the past year.
This one lights candles for aborted babies. I can see they also sell key rings, t-shirts, and models of fetuses, which CPCs in the US often use to show young mothers. They seem to be quite well funded. What I seem to notice is that part of their social media strategy is scaremongering. For example, there's a pie chart here that seems to claim that abortion kills more than accidents, cancer, and heart disease.
This chart was originally published by an anti-abortion organization in the US, but they seem to have greatly exaggerated the number of deaths due to abortion. Many Kenyan CPCs have partnerships with American organizations. According to their US tax returns, some are multi-million-dollar organizations, and some of that money comes here. One Kenyan CPC receives more than $500,000 per year from its American sponsor. But it's not just the money that comes from the US. They also send volunteers, materials, and provide training. I wanted to learn about the CPC model in the US and how it's being exported to other countries. So I called Tara Martha to find out more. She co-wrote a report on CPCs for women's rights charity.
And what are some of the features of our Crisis Pregnancy Center?
A hallmark of crisis pregnancy centers is that, one, they're opposed to abortion. They're also as opposed to contraception as they are opposed to abortion. The general understanding is that, yes, for the most part, we hear over and over again that if a person is relying on a CPC for support after childbirth or shortly after childbirth, the client is back on their own.
How many CPCs are there in America, and why is it that they've grown so fast?
Right now, there's an average of 3 CPCs for every legitimate medical facility that provides comprehensive evidence-based reproductive health care. I think this model can thrive anywhere that there's already abortion stigma, probably even more where abortion has been criminalized and therefore is more likely to be, unsafe. And I could see, them strategically exploiting that really sad, unfortunate landscape.
I contacted a number of the other CPCs in Nairobi, and most wouldn't agree to speak to me on camera. But the founder of St. Martin's Crisis Pregnancy and Pro-Life Education Center agreed. Domitila Ayot works with international volunteers to support pregnant young women. She also personally campaigns against abortion and has done so for decades.
We do what we do because I know that when you are in a crisis, You cannot think well. You need a shoulder to lean on. You need someone to give you emotional support. You need someone to really listen to you.
The young women are trained in various skills to help them earn a living after giving birth. But what surprised me was how many of the pregnancies apparently resulted from rape, which could qualify the survivor for a legal abortion.
And this baby was gotten from
Rape. And I didn't tell her that you have to do this, you have to do this. It's just the friendship. Here we don't judge anyone. Even if you tell me, oh, I want abort, okay, I'm not a doctor. I will just tell you what I do, and I'm not a doctor. And I tell you, you can go ahead but if you, please don't block me. Let's remain friends and let's continue to talk, but think about it. And many of them, after we have talked, they never go for abortion.
I wonder if the girls who come here, pregnant, afraid, and with no money, feel truly free to make up their own minds in face of such strong views.
We support the mothers during the pregnancy. After 6 weeks, they go back to their homes. So during the time that they are here in the Maisha Center, we try to connect with somebody in the family that can receive them after the delivery.
I don't just believe in anything to do with abortion. It's against my principle, it's against my moral. I'm not for abortion. It makes you to be careless. You just become pregnant because you will go for an abortion.
No girl who's defiled by her father, her neighbor, her brother, she should not be forced to have the child. She should not be brainwashed that this is what God wants. We say God is love. There's no loving God who's going to want your father to defile you to get pregnant at 10 and be forced to have the child.
I think the biggest myth is the fact that abortion is something that is done by people who are careless, who are promiscuous. What is interesting is that we did a study that actually showed that in Kenya, majority, about 54% of abortions are by married women. So that goes against the grain of what you would imagine.
Married or otherwise, most Kenyan women seeking abortions still end up in clinics that offer procedures off the books. This man says he performs up to 150 abortions a month. He told me that he trained as a doctor, but I can't find him or his colleague on Kenya's 2 main registers for healthcare professionals.
Why do you think there are so many patients?
I think that they come with many reasons because the government facility doesn't allow abortion, and you find that many people fear.
After extensive negotiation and with the patient's consent, we've been allowed to film some of these procedures. The team who perform these abortions are risking imprisonment, so often work at night.
So you want to induce the patient so that the fetus can come out.
How far is the pregnancy right now?
It's 4 months.
Nitoju sasa nitaenda kazi na wengine bado na huyo mwingine bado ni mdogo. Ningekuwa na pesa ningeenda mapema.
Edith is a domestic worker. It took her 4 months to save 4,000 shillings, around $30. It wasn't enough, but the clinic agreed to do the procedure on the condition that she would pay more later.
Najua mpaka mimi nilikuwa naogopa kwa sababu nasikia mtu akifanya hivyo, wengine wanakufa, wanaweza bleed, unakufa.
Is that blood you're wiping off?
Yeah.
So it bleeds?
When you're opening the stomach, it's not much blood, just.
Edith has 3 children already. She tested positive for HIV after the second was born. Her partner refused to get tested and later left the family.
Until now the process is complete.
Yeah.
How much longer?
We have like 4.5 hours before the medicine starts taking action, but later when hell breaks loose.
After 5 hours. So what
People
happens?
experience the same thing people experience when giving birth.
Uchungu kabisa. Nilikuwa peke yangu, nilikuwa nasikia uchungu mpaka napiga ukuta, nikasema kwani ni kuzaa ama ni nini? Nisikufe kwa hii nyumba peke yangu.
And because it's 4 months, will it come out as a baby?
Yeah, definitely.
Sangine mtu anafanya na uchungu juu au kutarajia kitu kama hiyo. Na upendi, juu sangine unapenda watoto. Sasa kulingana na vile maisha unapitia inafanya ufanye hivyo.
Even though a lawyer told me that Edith might qualify for illegal abortion due to her HIV status and other factors, this is one of the only options available to her and to many other women in her community.
So, mothers into cover the bed. So we dip there for maybe half an hour, and then they will be ready.
He's referring to the bucket of bleach they used to clean the instruments for the next patient, as well as the old newspaper used to cover the bed.
We have instructed her to remove her clothes before we start our procedure. Just lie down. Lie in this position.
Already abandoned by her children's father, Rachel's new partner also left her when he heard she was pregnant.
Nilikuwa nasikia kuogopa, lakini nimefika mahali nikaweka Mungu kando.
Rachel managed to borrow the money from a neighborhood savings group.
How many months is the...
Yeah, it was about 3 weeks.
I don't think I want to. I can watch.
Now, using an MVA, we want to remove the remaining products. Using the MVA.
Vacuum aspiration is a common and typically safe medical technique, but in these conditions it was disturbing to watch.
So using our left hand, we are able to not realize whether those products are already out. The experience we have, you can easily know. Maybe you know when everything has been common hold. You can see everything has come. It's power.
Hiyo ni kitu yenye sikuwa nimetarajia nitafanya maishani mwangu.
So what struck me about what I just saw is that there's little regard into how the woman feels or her mental condition or even the physical state in which this procedure is taking place.
If Kenyan law theoretically allows a woman like Edith to access safe and legal abortion, why does she have to sneak around like a criminal, putting her own life at risk? The men doing these procedures say they're safe, but they're not regulated, so I only have their word. But some activists are against even safe, legally sanctioned abortions. I met again with Domitila from St. Martin's and fellow campaigner Maximilia Muninzwa to understand why.
For the people who choose it, do you think they deserve a safe abortion? And this can only be done through legalizing abortions. So what's your take on that?
It's like there is nothing like a safe abortion. But if the government still wants to do it anyway, it will do it, but not with our blessings.
But how do you respond then to critics who say you're putting your religious ideologies ahead of the well-being
not being a religious ideology.
Girls and women, pregnant girls and women who would have gone for an abortion? How do you respond to
What
that?
is my religious ideology?
Actually, we don't put any religious ideology.
But both women have been clear with me about the depth of their faith. And their religious beliefs also seem to inform their strong opposition to contraception.
So at the heart of it is unplanned pregnancies and, not having enough money to feed these children. So why don't we then avoid this using contraceptives? Why don't you, advise for contraceptives so that also we may prevent the abortions in the long run?
That is always the argument that is given. Contraceptives have been in this country since the 60s, right? Has that stopped women from becoming pregnant? No. Why? Because contraceptives are not foolproof.
But do you offer any solutions now from your organizations or your movement? Solutions against unplanned pregnancies?
We will sit and discuss. If the girl or the woman wants to contracept, personally, I will not say yes and I will not say no. If this woman is Catholic, then I will talk about what the Catholic Church teaches.
We young women regularly hear such strong messages: to abstain, to not use contraception, and to not seek abortions. Sometimes these views are even echoed by members of the government. I found this recording of our Cabinet Secretary for Health talking about contraception in early 2023.
Madam CS, yes. Are we going to give condoms to teenagers? It's high time, don't you think so?
Question is that.
Yes,
One,
because infections are very high.
I am Mama Kanisa.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Therefore, number one is
Uh-huh.
abstinence.
Yes.
That we teach our youth, our
But they are not
adolescents
abstaining.
to abstain. But where they cannot abstain,
Yes.
then of course,
Yes.
condoms
Yes.
has been said as one of the ways to use protection.
Yes.
But I believe with firm Christian foundations,
Yes.
our adolescents should be able to abstain.
I was keen to ask the government some questions about how they plan to improve the safety and rights of women and girls in Kenya. I tried to schedule an interview for months, even going to the Ministry of Health in person to request one. But I didn't get any response to my inquiries. I wonder where all this leaves Kenya's women and girls, like the ones I met at Youth for Christ, caught between such challenging pressures and few good choices. Now back at home with their mums, I asked them about their experiences at the center.
Watoto wameanga si vizuri kufanya abortion juu ni risk sana hadi so unaweza toa ukufe. Sasa beta tu ujifungue. Watakusaidia. Kama ni nini kama mwezi afford watakusaidia.
They're also teaching us about the Bible and telling us we made a mistake, but we can still go back and ask for forgiveness from God.
Since leaving the CPC, they said they hadn't received any additional material support.
It's hard. I can't do the same things I used to do, like walk with my school friends.
How do you plan to take care of your child? Do you have a plan on that?
Yes, I'm going to work hard and hustle so that maybe we get a good life.
While the girls are adapting, their mothers are left to reflect on their new lives.
That was not the plan I had for her life. I wanted her to finish school, get a good job, have a good life. But it happened so.
Both mothers had their own daughters when extremely young. Lucy's mother was just 14 when she became pregnant with Lucy.
Sikuwa najua anything ati mtu anaweza use protection. Sikuwa najua anything.
I had finished school. I wanted to start going to college.
How did that change your life?
It changed my life. It changed my life in a very big way.
Was it a planned pregnancy?
It was through rape. Yeah, it was through rape. I didn't plan for it. I had so many plans for my life. I wanted to go to nursing school, be a nurse, and finally be a doctor and be someone successful in life. But
so nilikuwa na try ku protect at least. After life power, I come place different, but it could happen. So yeah, ile kitu nilikuwa nataka isimu happen ndio ili happen.
Hatutaki kudhulumiwa, hatutaki